You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. Curious how the law of attraction can be consciously harnessed for real transformation? Get the details in today's episode. This episode contains strong language and listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we explore the transformative power of aligning our thoughts and energy with our deepest desires. By consciously applying the law of attraction, we can create meaningful shifts in our lives and move past limiting beliefs. The conversation offers valuable ways to reframe our mindset and energy, helping us manifest the reality we seek and live with greater purpose. Jenn Rosner is the author of Are You My Happiness? A whimsical journey of self-discovery for children and adults alike. She is also a passionate artist and creative. As a certified massage therapist and a certified magnetic mind coach, Jenn blends her expertise in physical, mental, and energetic well-being to guide others on their path to personal transformation. With training in various energy healing modalities, including Reiki, chakra balancing, and theta healing, she offers group and individual coaching, energy healing sessions, and guided meditations. Jenn's work is all about empowering others to connect with their inner wisdom, tap into their creative potential, and design a life they truly love. She also provides massage instruction and workshops to help others share the gift of healing touch. Here is my interview with Jenn Rosner. Hi, Jenn. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because conscious law of attraction is such an intriguing topic for today's conversation. And I'm sure that our listeners have heard about the law of attraction, but this will be a little bit of a different take on it. So I'm very excited to dive in. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start off with a little bit about yourself and how you came to do what you do today and what it is that you do today, and let our listeners know so they can get to know you a little bit.
So when I was growing up, it was a very chaotic household, a lot of yelling, a lot of fighting, no personal space, physical, mental, emotional. And I'm a person who needs a lot of personal space, like spiritually and energetically. I didn't have that. I'm also very sensitive, right? So I learned to escape and I went inward. So I was never comfortable in my body. And, when I started school, all I wanted to do was just blend and be normal, be like all the other kids. But I couldn't because I was the tallest kid in my elementary school. I developed very early. I was, uncoordinated and sensitive and uncomfortable in my body and awkward. And it was just, not fun. So I ended up developing severe social anxiety. And then as school went on, I started to develop severe depression to the point where I was having trouble actually getting up and going to school. And really the shit hit the fan, so to speak. My dad was hit by a car. There was a big earthquake in 94. And I think it was all too much for me. And, the fighting was really bad in my house. So police have been called to my house a couple of times. And so my parents were like ripping their hair out. They didn't know what to do with me. They're like, we have to take you to therapy. Like, we can't deal with it. So I took me to therapy and I went to therapy begrudgingly because it's like, great. I'm already standing out. I'm already different. Now I'm going to therapy. If everyone knew that, they think I'm crazy on top of it, right? It's just another thing for people to pick on me about, right? But I went because I didn't have a choice and I got labeled the identified patient. Now, looking back on that now, it's like, okay, so that's just a clinical term. But to me, it reinforced that I'm the problem. I'm the one that's causing all the fights in the family. I'm the one that's doing all this stuff. And so it reinforced that I'm broken. I'm the one that needs fixing. So, I did that. I ended up graduating high school, tried different colleges, couldn't really figure that out. struggled really bad with depression to the point of being hospitalized inpatient a couple times. Lots of outpatient therapy, intensive outpatient. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but lots of regular therapy, and it helped, right? But I could never still get out of my own way. Finally, I started seeing an acupuncturist, and she's like, I really believe you're an empath and you would do well taking intuitive development. So I'm like, okay, so I started studying intuitive development and I fell in love with that world. I fell in love with the spiritual, the energetic, the psychic, all that stuff. And I learned so much about that. I learned, tarot, Reiki healing, chakra balancing, theta healing, got certified in all these things. And it was great. But the thing was, it was like, if I can just fix one more belief, if I can just do one more healing, one more energetic clearing, the scales would tip in my favor and life would be easy, right? This depression, this anxiety, everything would be smooth. I could finally get out of my own way. Because it was like I would go 3 steps forward, 2 steps back all the time, right? That dance that we all do. And I'll talk about the reason we do that. It's not our fault going forward. But to me, it's my fault. Like, I kept doing that. I couldn't get out of my own way. And finally, I went to massage school, which was actually the only school I was actually finished, working as a massage therapist for a while. And, it's very perishable because it's hard on the body. So I'm like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm like, okay, universe, got to help me figure out what my next move is. So I saw this guy. It's like, you're not broken. You can be anything you are and everything you are and still create anything and everything you want, because success is not personal, it's structural. And I didn't really believe him, but something about what he was saying just made so much sense to me. So I started studying and I started to understand that, no, I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. This is all programming that I learned and picked up, obviously, from like 7 generations back and all this stuff. But because I've learned it all, I can unlearn it and reprogram my mind. And I learned how to do that. And it's been amazing. So, I'm still a massage therapist, but I do the coaching. I help people learn how to consciously use law of attraction, right? Because we'll go into that, to harness the power, because it is a lot. It's always working no matter what. And so, what's really been amazing is I haven't created a lot of physical things, but the emotional, mental things, the way I'm processing and dealing with things has changed. My boyfriend, his mom died in 2020. His dad was then shortly put on hospice after that. And I was helping him take care of his dad until he passed. And I was able to be there towards the end, which was very difficult, but I was able to be there for his dad, for him, and for myself without falling apart, without going into a deep depression. And that was just huge. So, it's really given me the freedom to work on my emotions. Not that I'm perfect and I still, have my days, but I'm able to refocus. And I'm able to look at myself. And when I do focus on certain things, it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing, but I don't have that shame. I don't have that guilt. I don't have that I'm broken. It's like, oh, I understand what I'm doing. Okay, let's move forward and shift. So that's what I really like to share with people, because it's not our fault. It's really, really not. And we think it is, and it's not.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that and part of your journey as well. I would imagine that is a lot for a young woman, a teenager, a young adult to take on, to think that is your responsibility and your fault that a lot of these things are happening. And of course, I think from that comes a lot of the mental health challenges as well, because how can we think that it's all our fault? It cannot be. So yeah, I see that and hear that a lot. And there's a lot of guilt and shame involved in working through these programs. And in the end, I think same as you, this conclusion that I've come to is we are not broken. We just have things that we work through, things that we need to shed, things that we need to change in this deep programming that we've often, like you said, carried over generations within us. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for pointing out that we are in fact not broken, but we have all this wonderful power inside of us to heal and to create and to work with the things that are around us as well. So yeah, one thing that you said that was really interesting to me is that success isn't personal, it's structural. So what do you mean by that? And how can our listeners imagine that when you say that? Because I think a lot of them probably do think it is personal. It's something that you have to work really hard for to create. So what does that mean when you say it's not personal?
So I'm going to kind of go into the human journey a little bit to get into the different structure. So before we're born, okay, we are infiniteness, we're superconscious, we're God, we're the universe, we're whatever you want to call it, right? And that means we're everything. And because we're everything, we can't experience ourselves because you can't experience everything, right? So we want to have a human experience to experience. We want to experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, everything. It doesn't matter. And so we create this human, right? But when we're in the body, we're in utero with our mom, everything is still given to us. We're loved, we're cared for, we're fed, we're nurtured, and it's just done for us. We don't have to do anything. It's there. We're still part of that everything. We're still experiencing that everything. Then we're born. Okay. And what happens is all of a sudden it's like cold and bright and loud, and we don't have it all anymore. And at this point, we forget who we are, right? Because we're trying to figure out how to get our needs met as a human. And so we spend the next couple of years, like 0 to 7, which creates our unconscious mind, trying to figure out how to get our needs met, what the world means, who we are. We're given all these labels of who we are. We are, we learn that, okay, if you do this, you get fed. If you do this, you get yelled at. If you do this, mom and dad get mad at you. If you do this, so we learn all these different things, and that becomes our blueprint for the world and the way that we believe about the world. And so we spend the rest of our lives basically trying to get back to the place of, wholeness and where we can have it all. But we do it through the lens of, these are our belief systems. These are the way that the world works. This is what I have to do to get my needs met. And so it doesn't matter really how much you consciously start learning, you read all the books and do all this stuff, unconscious runs the show. And so we'll always go back to that programming, right? And so, when we talk about structure, so we have the unconscious and the conscious. The conscious mind wants a good life. The conscious mind, we want to do all these wonderful things. Unconscious mind is like, well, wait a minute. That's not safe. Wait a minute. Remember in 5th grade, you did that and you got so much hurt. You know how many people, lose their shirt doing a business? No, we're not doing that, right? So the main job of the unconscious is to keep you safe and alive, and it will take the future and put it on the present. Take the past and put it on the present. So anything is done in the past to keep you alive, it's going to continue doing, no matter if it's working, quote unquote, or not. And so you have this inner civil war going on. And the superconscious, who we actually are, is like, I don't really care. I just want to experience. So I'm happy experiencing, sad things, bad things, whatever, because I just want to experience. And so what we have to do is we have to get all 3 levels of consciousness on board. And so structure, right? We have these 3 levels of consciousness. And when we believe we're human and we have this identity, the future is going to be better when. Okay. And that's reinforced, obviously, by the advertisement industry. Our parents were born into this paradigm. Our grandparents were born into this paradigm. Who knows how long this paradigm has been running, right? But, buy this product, buy this service, buy this coaching, buy this whatever, your life is going to be magically perfect. Everything is going to be great. And your life is just going to be great, right? And so we buy into that, right? But the problem is that when we believe the future is going to be better when, it means that the now is not good enough and that we need to fix ourselves. And so when we have this identity that we need to fix ourselves, okay, it doesn't matter what we want to say we want to create. We have this set point of, I'm broken, I need to fix myself. So we go about moving towards what we want. And we start maybe getting it. And we start having doubts of like, wait a minute, am I worth this? Can I actually have this? They're so much better at this than I am. All these different things come up. And so we say, okay, wait a minute. Let me try to fix myself. And so we take ourselves out and we don't move towards what we want, right? And so, we have these 6 sabotaging patterns in this paradigm. This is one of the structures, right? So we have I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I don't belong. I am insignificant. I'm not perfect. And I'm not capable. And so these all pop up in different ways and different things. And so, like I said, we're moving towards what we want, and maybe, we get it, but we're like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel like it was supposed to feel. What's wrong with me? I should be happy. I've worked so hard to get this. And we start blaming ourselves for that, right? Or, it's just always right in front of us with the carrot. I can never quite get it. Or, we do the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back dance, where it's like we get it, but then we go back and forth, right? And it's because we're in this structure. Now, we don't know anything different. We don't know that there's another way to orientate. But there is actually another way to orientate, and that is to remember who you are. You awaken to who you are. You awaken to that you are this creative power, and you are everything already. That's who you are. And you're having this human experience. You have the human body, which is very real. Experiences are very real, but it's not you. You are the one who created the body. You are the one who created this experience, right? And so when you remember that, then you can come from a place of, what do I want to create just because I want to create it? Because if I knew 100%, which this takes time to get to, a lot of reprogramming, right? But just think about this and ask yourself this. If I knew I was everything, if I didn't need to get anything from anybody on any level, what would I actually want in my life? You know? And so you can start when you start creating from that place. So the problem orientation is, the future's going to be better when I need to fix myself. Now it's not good enough. The creative orientation, I want this because I want this. I would love to have this. This would be amazing. Okay. So then after you decide that this is what you want, then the next part of the creative structure is that you step into it, which means that, you can meditate on it. You can visualize it. You can just close your eyes and imagine, picture what it would be like to already have this. Like, just make up, this is the future. It's done. It's here. Give your unconscious mind a taste that this is going to be safe. And that's how we start reprogramming the unconscious mind that way. Visualization, meditation, all that. Then you have to look at your current reality because it's important. You got to look at your current reality. I'm not saying it's not important, right? And so we have the two ends. We have what I want to create and where am I now? And this creates like a nice little tension. And tension will seek resolutions. Like if you take a rubber band to pull it back, it eventually has to snap back, right? So then once you have these two set points, you're like, okay, so I'm here and I want to be here. What's in the way? Why am I not able to achieve this thing? So all those things that are in the middle is what we call resistance. And that's the thing we tend to blame ourselves for. All the belief systems, all the reasons why we can't do something, all the labels, all of the stuff that's passed down from us from 7 generations back, all these things, but we think it's us. We think it's our problem, but these are things that were learned, inherited, and programmed. And so then you can unplug, you reprogram, you do all these things. Then you start to take the next obvious action step towards what you want. And so it's always, what do I want to create? Where am I now? What's in the way? Clear it out, take the action step, clear it out, take the action step, clear it out. And you're consistently moving forward. Because when you focus on the problem, that's when you have this 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, because you're always with the rubber band. It's like you're being pulled this way, but then it's like you're being pulled back. It's a tension, And so it's consistent movement forward. And so that's really the different structures. So it doesn't matter if you take the richest person, the most successful person in the world, and they start focusing on problems, they're going to be in the problem orientation, right? You take the poorest person in the world, it doesn't matter, and they start focusing on what they want, where they're going, doing this, they can move forward too. So it's when we say success is not personal, if you are in the problem orientation, structure has integrity. So, and when I say structure also, let me just kind of explain this a little bit. Structure is anything that makes up a whole. And so if you think about a house, a canoe, and a rocking chair made of the same wood. Take the house is a very sturdy structure, right? You try to push it, move it, you can't move it. It's a stuck structure. Canoe is light, you can pick it up, it floats on the water, it moves, it's a flowing structure, right? Rocking chair is oscillating, it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so it doesn't matter where you put these things, they're always going to act the same. Another way to look at it is if you take a balloon and a brick and you put them both in water, the balloon is always going to be on the top and the brick is always going to fall to the bottom because that's the structure of the thing. So structure has integrity, will always act the same. So when you're in the problem orientation, okay, and you're focusing on the problem and fixing yourself, you'll be in this cycle. When you are focused on where you want to go, you will still have the resistance. Okay, you will still have all these things. You might still, have the human experience and the feelings and all that stuff, but you'll be able to move, forward. And the structure of it is that, you can shift it and you are taking your power back. You were saying, these are old paradigms. These are old things that served me once, because another thing is we create these things obviously to get our needs met, and they worked. And in that time period. And, a lot of times when I'm doing the recodes, to clear out the resistances, I talk to the ancestors. I'm like, yeah, thank you for passing down all this stuff. We know that this worked in your time. We know these belief systems worked in, your time, but it's like we're in a different time period now. We have different energies, different technologies, different things. So a lot of those things are antiquated. So it's like, thank you for passing them down. We appreciate it. But we need to let go of things that are no longer serving and keep everything that is, because it's a different time period now. So that's what I mean when I say structure. The success is not personal, it's structural.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I love the images that you're using because that makes so much sense. Because we do, myself included, wonder why sometimes things just don't work or there's so much resistance. And this explains it very, very well, and what actually needs to happen so that we can make those changes. I love that. Now, when you bring the law of attraction into all of that, how does that come together? And maybe if you want to say a few words about the law of attraction, I'm not sure how familiar our listeners are with it or aren't with it. So maybe let's go over what the law of attraction is, what it does, and the way that you would, for example, look at it or apply it with yourself and your clients to make those changes that we've just spoken about to move forward or to get the things that you would like in life.
So, law of attraction is like attracts like, basically. And a lot of us are taught that you just have to visualize, you just have to think, positive, meditate, and you can never have a negative thought, right? Cancel, can't see that, can't, no, nothing negative, can't feel anything that's so-called negative, right? And it's just not true. We think we attract what we think about. We don't attract what we think about, we attract who we are. And how many times have you had a thought that wasn't so nice about someone else? Maybe, you wish someone ill will. We all have, okay? Jealous, ill will, we're angry, whatever. Nothing ever happened to that person, right? Because you don't get what you think about, you get who you are. So taking this back to the whole structure thing, right? Law of attraction is always working. It's a frequency. You're always attracting different things. And so when we attract from the problem orientation structure, we are attracting from the level of the thing, right? We believe we're broken and that we need to fix ourselves. And so we're attracting our life from that. And we try to fix it on the level of the thing. So how many times do you know people who, they get the go from job to job to job? It's the same issues, the same boss, same employees, same issues, different job. Or relationships, right? It's the same person, different body. And they just keep attracting the same thing. And that's because they're in the problem orientation and they're trying to fix themselves. They believe that they're broken and they need to fix, and they're focused on the actual thing. You attract who you are. Okay, so if you believe you're broken and you believe that you need fixing, you're again in that structure, in that cycle, or the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. You're going to get stuck. And this is why we sabotage too, by the way, which we talked about. But so law of attraction is always responding to you. It's always there, but it's responding to our unconscious again, right? So consciously, we focus on all the good things. But again, the unconscious mind is what runs the show. So you have to really work on reprogramming the unconscious mind and focusing with the conscious mind on what you want, where you want to go, and looking at all these programs and deciding what's working for me, what's not working for me. And that's really what I do. I help people step into the structure of creation, which means that you identify as the predominant creative force in your life. And so when you identify with the predominant creative force in your life, you get to decide what you want to create, and you get to decide what you want to attract into your life. Now, again, certain things are going to happen because life happens. Life is never perfect, right? But then it becomes how you're dealing with it. Because when we're in the problem orientation, things happen. It's like, oh, why me? We put all these, it triggers all of these ideas about ourselves. We give this meaning that, oh, this happened to me because blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm not good enough. Again, that's 6 sabotaging patterns. But when you're coming from it from the creative perspective, it's like, well, this sucks. I don't like this at all. Okay, it's not personal. Again, sometimes shit just happens, but it doesn't mean anything about me. It doesn't mean I'm any less worthy. It doesn't mean I'm not good enough. And so you have to feel it and work through it, but you don't have to spend all that time beating yourself up with the shame and the guilt and everything. And you can just move through it and heal it and move forward and move to the other side. I wanted to talk for a second about, I don't know if you guys have seen the Barbie movie, but there's this part in the Barbie movie at the end or near the end, and I don't want to spoil it, but she's asked basically, you have a choice. You can go back to Barbie land where everything's perfect, right? You are every version of Barbie you can possibly be there, or you can stay here. But if you're going to stay here, just know you're going to be subject to all the human emotions and the human life. And so you see her, she closes her eyes and she thinks for a minute, and you see her going through all of the range of human emotions and visualizing her life. And she goes through sadness and grief and heartbreak and joy, of course, and all these things. And she chooses to stay here too. And so that's what I kind of think that we do, right? We can have this perfect where we're everything, but the human experience is so much more interesting in all of it, knowing that we're going to experience heartbreak and loss and all these things that are hard and painful, but we want to experience them anyway. And so it's going to happen. I'm not saying law of attraction is going to make everything perfect and it's like magically everything's going to be great, but it's about knowing that experiences, they're not, you don't have to identify as experience. You don't have to put labels on what this experience means about you. And that's really what conscious law of attraction is about, because it's understanding that the law of attraction is always working. It's a law, right? And so, okay, well, this sucks again. What do I want? What do I want to create? What do I want to attract into my life? Where do I want to go? And, it's not easy at all, especially when you are in the shame, in the depression and anxiety, but it's a practice. It's really a practice and choosing every single day. So when I work with people, we work on stepping into that structure. So we choose, right? Choosing is super important, true choices. So we have the core 4 choices that really shift us into this structure. So I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life. Okay. I choose to live a life that I love. I choose to live my true nature and purpose, and I choose full health and vitality. And so just those core 4, you focus on every single day, and you choose them, you visualize them, you get into the structure of them, you can do recodes on them. Again, I want to be the predominant, I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life. Right now, I'm completely victim. I'm completely not even there at all. What's in the way? And then you can shift, and what's in the way, and you keep moving forward this way, right? And those core 4 choices will shift you into the creative structure when you do them consistently, choose them. And then, of course, as you start shifting into that, you can make other choices that you want to create. But those core 4 are the ones that really shift you from the problem orientation to the creative orientation.
Yeah, wow, there's a lot that goes into that. So thank you for laying that out and explaining that. And also, the ways that we tend to sabotage ourselves and the way that we can actually take some of that power back. It's absolutely fascinating. And sometimes I run into these exact same issues where I myself believe that I have no choice or I am stuck in something. And you're absolutely right. This is more of a problem orientation. And as soon as I'm able to shift out of that, things rapidly change. So there is a lot to say for personal power and for personal empowerment to take the things that we have available and actually apply them consciously in our lives and make that choice. And absolutely, it's not always going to be easy. There are always things that happen in life, but they are part of who we are, part of our journey, and they are part of that experience that actually lets us really feel into the things that we do want in life. So I do believe it is all part of that whole that you were talking about. So yeah. Now, you also wrote a book called Are You My Happiness? And how
Yes.
does that relate to what we've just spoken about and the law of attraction and the things that you just explained to our listeners?
So Are You My Happiness is a kid's book, but it's for adults as well. And it follows Emma. And Emma is basically looking for happiness outside of herself. So she's going around asking everybody, are you my happiness? Are you my happiness? And everyone's like, no, I'm not your happiness. And it turns out at the end, she realizes, no, happiness is within me. Happiness is always here. And so it follows her on this journey. It's written in the style of the Are You My Mother? If you guys are familiar with that, the Dr. Seuss book, Are You My Mother? And it's a really, really good book. I'm really very proud of it. I have here, Are You My Happiness? I can open up a page here.
And we'll make sure that we link to that as well so people can actually see that, since they won't be able to see it because it's audio. but we will definitely link to that and make sure that they can see an image of the cover as well.
Perfect. But yeah, I mean, it relates because, we do that. We seek happiness outside of ourselves. And we need to realize happiness is inside. And once you are happy inside, if you can be happy with your current reality, no matter what it is, or find happiness somewhere, something, that will start to move, because again, what you focus on increases. Where your focus goes, energy flows. And law of attraction is attracting to who you are. So if you are always complaining, if you are always, thinking about the negative or the problems or how unhappy and all these things are making you unhappy, you're going to be more focused on those things. And it's funny because we're so conditioned to only focus on the problems, right? And it's like, well, you can't really look at the positives, because it's like, well, how can you ignore the all these things that are going on in the world? How can you be happy when all these things are going on in the world? But it's like, wait a minute. Why is it that it's okay to focus on all these problems and ignore all the good things that are going on in the world and good things that are going on in your life? Why is that okay? because both are happening at the same time. The good and the so-called negative and the so-called positive, both things are happening. You can have some horrible things happening, but there's still some good also. And it's like, well, okay, so it's interesting that we always focus on, all the bad. And it's like, well, no, you can't be happy if all these things are happening. Well, why not? Why can't you be happy? Why can't you choose to be happy because you choose to be happy, or you choose to feel good because you choose to feel good, regardless of the situation, regardless of what's going on? Yes, I'm not saying it's not happening. Yes, I'm not saying it's not any more painful, but it's like both are happening anyway. And I think Wayne Dyer said once that, like, for things that you want to create or that are happening, it's like, it's 50-50. 50-50 could have a good outcome, 50-50 could have a so-called negative outcome. So if it's not set yet, why not choose to have the positive outcome? Why not choose to be happy? And it's 50-50 anyway. It's not, so there's that.
Yeah. And that's a really important point. Again, back to that self-empowerment and making those choices consciously while we are going about our day, and reminding ourselves that even though the situation might be horrible and it might be tough, and I know you yourself have had some of those very horrible experiences, and yet you can have that choice of saying, yes, that is happening. I do recognize that. I do have those emotions, but there is a happiness that's within me that nobody can take away from me, that nobody can cut down or influence or extinguish. And that, I think, is part of that choice as well. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. It's really a very, I want to say, profound shift in perspective when we realize that it actually is all within us already, and we can draw on what we have inside to bring that kind of to our outside world. So yeah. Excellent point. Now, you work with clients in different ways as well. Do you want to let our listeners know what kind of programs and services you have available, how they can reach out to you, and how they could work with you if they have some of these patterns going on, or they want to change their structure, let's say? How could they work with you to do some of that?
So I do a weekly webinar. It's called Unlocking Your Inner Power, The Myth of the Broken Self. And that is every week. You can find me on Eventbrite, and the link obviously attached to the podcast. And I go through all this in more detail, and then I take you through an experience. So it's part educational, part experiential, and you really get to experience the shift in the structure. I help you step into the structure. We go into, what you want to create. I take you through a recode. So what it actually feels like to feel the shift in the resistance. And so it's awesome. I love doing that. I do individual coaching right now to really help you step into the structure, because, what I struggle with too still is that, like, so many people say, you need to do this, you have to do these things. And it's like, yes, okay, as a coach, I believe in all this work, right? But I don't believe that you have to do this. If this resonates with you, and this would be helpful to you, that would be great. But no one has to do anything. And so we have all the information, we have all the power within ourselves. And sometimes we need extra help to get in touch with that. Sometimes we need extra support because, we spent our whole lives up until this point in this paradigm, in this problem-oriented structure. Maybe our family is still on this problem-oriented structure. Society obviously is in the problem-oriented structure. And so it can be very difficult to step out of it without support. You can do it though. So I just want to say there's a lot of free resources and things you can do, but sometimes it helps to have support. It helps to have a, community, just to someone to hold you accountable to say, like, okay, are you focusing on, are you doing your choices every day? Are you meditating, every day? How's your thoughts been and all that? So, because it's a process and it's going to take time, it's going to shift, and you might have some freakouts. Your unconscious mind might start freaking out because it's not safe according to the unconscious mind until it is. So, like I said, we have the webinar, and I do individual coaching to help you really step into that structure. I'm going to start group coaching to help you get into that structure. And so, with the coaching is we go into the structure, we do the recodes every week. We talk about, what's coming up for you. Where do you feel stuck or oscillating, or maybe you're moving forward, flowing, but not fast enough. But so it's about really reinforcing, where's my focus? And so a lot of times we do these healings and we shift, but you have to reinforce the healings. And so I do show a video in the webinar of the brain neural pathways reconnecting. So that's really interesting too, because you actually really rewire your brain through the recodes, through the things. And so you create new neural pathways, but the new neural pathways need to be reinforced, for them to really stick. And so that it's really repetition. It's, having the support, having the coaching. So I love what I do. I love talking about it. I love helping people.
Yeah, I can tell that you're very passionate about it. And so, of course, we will be linking to all of Jenn's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there for the link to the webinar and how you can reach her. And I imagine you're on the socials as well, so people can...
Oh, yeah, my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube are all linked.
Perfect. We'll link all that up for you. And of course, if you do end up working with Jenn, let us know. I'm always so curious what happens when our listeners link up with our guests and the kind of things that happen when that work comes together. So reach out to us on Instagram or on the website. Let us know what your experience has been like. And we definitely love to hear what happens when you work with some of our guests and actually have those experiences for yourself. And Jenn, thank you so much for being here today and talking to us about this different kind of perspective on the law of attraction to consciously use it in our lives. I have absolutely enjoyed our conversation. And thank you for bringing all this wisdom. You have so much knowledge on this topic. So thank you for sharing that with us and explaining all of that so beautifully. Truly, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And I just want to say one more quick thing, if I can.
Absolutely.
I want you guys to think about this. So first of all, I want to leave you with, you're not broken. Again, success is not personal, it's structural. And I want you to think about us as predominant creative forces as the sun. So when the sun is shining and the clouds come, or even at night, we don't think that the sun's not shining. We don't think that the sun is not any less powerful because we don't see it. Right. And so that's who we are, right? We are not any less powerful just because we have been programmed to not connect to it. We're still there. We just don't see it at the moment. And so maybe that's going to help. And also, if you guys leave here just like smidgen that maybe I'm not broken, that'd be amazing. Come to my webinar. You're going to learn a lot. It'd be really, really fun. Again, it's experiential. You get to experience a recode. You get to experience what it's like to really step into your end results. And yeah.
Amazing. And we'll leave our listeners with those beautiful words. So remember the sun. Think of yourself in a similar fashion, that just because you can't see it at nighttime doesn't mean it's not there. Just need to wait a little bit and it'll come back. So thank you for those wonderful words. And I wish you well and take really good care of yourself, Jenn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejōrni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.